Greetings. Again, thanks for coming for press briefing. Sorry if you're expecting a different topic, but we kind of interrupted today. And so we're here to talk about an officer-involved shooting that took place early this morning in the city of Sioux Falls. And my name is Police Chief John Toom, Sioux Falls Police Department. And again, I know there's been a press release sent out. You have some basic details, but wanted to provide a little bit of context to what took place. I'm just going to preface this by saying, as with all these incidents, they're under investigation by DCI, and the South Dakota Attorney General also issued a press statement as well. So the questions we're able to answer will be limited, but wanted to give you some context to what took place this morning. So shortly after 3 this morning, a Sioux Falls police officer was stopping out at a business in the 600 block of South Minnesota Avenue. As the officer was approaching that business, he began taking gunfire from the inside of the structure. Simultaneously, a call for service was coming into Metro Communications from inside that structure, that there was a suspect inside with a firearm, and in that call to Metro Communications, gunshots could be heard coming from that call as well. The officer in the lot was able to return fire and clear bystanders from the parking lot, remove himself to the cover of his patrol vehicle, and as would be expected, an emergency request for assistance from all units was put out. Again, large police presence responded to the scene, and as officers are responding, it was clear from what they could see inside that this was a hostage situation with the employees being held against their will inside that location. With that, the Sioux Falls Police Department SWAT team was activated, as well as the Minnehaha County Sheriff's SWAT team was activated as well. On-duty personnel from both the Sioux Falls Police Department and Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office arrived on scene. Part of that responding unit was on-duty SWAT officers from both Sioux Falls Police Department and Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office. In setting up and containing the incident, a Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office deputy and SWAT team member deployed his department-issued sniper rifle, and approximately 3:40 in the morning, as the hostage situation was unfolding, in protection of the hostage's life, a shot was fired by that deputy and did strike the subject. Officers on scene then made emergency crisis entry into the building, were able to rescue the hostages. There was one hostage that was immediately in the vicinity of the individual, another that was hiding in a bathroom, and another that had already exited the building. Upon removing the hostages, medical assistance was called on scene, and that subject was pronounced deceased on scene. As is per standard with all these cases, it'll be turned over to the DCI for investigation in the South Dakota Attorney General's office. Just want to highlight, again, great cooperation between the Sioux Falls Police Department and Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office. When a request for aid goes out or assistance goes out, we respond unified and well together to really bring about resolutions. Obviously, we seek peaceful resolutions, but oftentimes we're forced to act on what takes place in front of us. And I just want to praise our cooperation and ability to work well together as a team. And again, in initial looking at this incident, the professional response of our officers, couldn't be more proud of both the deputies and officers that responded. Again, a very tense situation. Obviously can't speak too much about the details, as again, it's an ongoing investigation, but wanted to provide some context, as obviously it generated a lot of police presence, a lot of vehicles, and naturally a lot of questions. And again, understandably, I think from many of you who have been to these briefings before, you'll understand that we can't answer many of the questions that come up. But at this point, I would, if you have any general questions, field those.
Clarification.
I just want to point out too, Sheriff Milstead, Deputy Sheriff Gromer, and Minnehaha County State's Attorneys Daniel Hagar are here as well today too.
So just clarification, the suspect was pronounced dead?
Deceased, yes, correct, yeah.
There's a number of officers involved in this. How do you debrief, or how do you work with those officers who were on the scene and those who may be impacted just peripherally?
Sure, that's a great question. One of the things we like to stress is officer wellness and care for officers after these incidents. While I think people watch, as I've said in the past, they watch movies, they see different things, they think this is a casual day at the office, and this is absolutely not. This is, again, one of those extremely tense situations where lives hang in the balance in a variety of ways, and again, can be very impactful on officers. We offer immediate peer support to our officers, ongoing care as far as employee assistance and people to talk to, and there's the administrative leave that goes along with it. And part of that administrative leave is to make sure that our officers receive the care they need and that they can, get the time to process an event like this, which is obviously not a normal run-of-the-mill event for an everyday officer. So.
Chief, that southeastern corner of 14th and Minnesota, is that a comparatively high crime area in the city?
I think if you could pull up a heat map, you would see major intersections seem to attract some calls, whether it's accidents or where people gather or where people stop. I wouldn't necessarily make a statement in that regard without being able to pull numbers for you. But, typically certain business, areas have certain call types. I wouldn't be able to definitively say at that point, so.
Pass it over that way.
You mentioned that SWAT was called. How quickly did SWAT arrive from the initial call out?
So again, speaking in generalities, because our SWAT teams, both for Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office and Sioux Falls Police Department, are not full-time teams. They're patrol officers, detectives, sergeants. Sometimes they happen to be working the streets. We had Sioux Falls police officer SWAT members who are working the streets tonight or this morning, as well as Minnehaha County Sheriff's deputies who are on their SWAT team that were working. So it's a nice to have that immediate response. It takes longer to activate and mobilize a full team. But I would be remiss also to mention we had crisis negotiators on scene that were working on duty that night. So part of the collateral duty team benefit is they are working their regular duties. And so within short order, we could have our patrol officers obviously are outstanding, but enhanced with crisis negotiators and on-duty SWAT members to help work through this situation.
We've had a number of officer-involved shootings in Sioux Falls and across the state from back to September of 2022. This one seems a bit different. Can you talk about, the response to something like this as opposed to perhaps one potential shooter outside a building?
Again, I'll speak in generalities again because I've had the experience now of being involved in many of these, and I would tell you that each one is uniquely different in its circumstance. I can tell you that when we train officers at the patrol level and all the way to SWAT and crisis negotiation, one of the highest levels of training we put into is to hostage rescue. And again, the SWAT officers, but our patrol officers as well as far as the rapid deployment training, hostage rescue is a huge component, and that's what maybe make this a little bit more unique, right? Because a resident of our community, a citizen of our community is in peril in a very dangerous way, right? And so our training and our focus and our level of professionalism has to be extremely high to have a resolution where our ultimate priority is to make sure that that citizen or that resident is safe. And in this situation, well, again, all loss of life is tragic. The hostages were safe and are returning home to their families today, and we are very, very proud of that.
I'll just kind of ask two questions in one. What can you clarify? Was it at the Get and Go gas station on
So
that corridor?
due to how I have to talk and give information, I can say near the intersection of 14th and Minnesota, in the 600 block of South Minnesota.
And then can you talk at all about, was there like a negotiation phase between?
Sure. So there's a lot of nuance, and again, we were able to establish some dialogue in the course of that time frame. Obviously, we're also trained to work towards peaceful resolution, right? So we're trying to negotiate, trying to open lines of communication, and attempts were made. Again, we had on-duty crisis negotiators that were on scene attempting to bring about a peaceful resolution to this.
Can you kind of describe and clarify again how many hostages were inside of the location?
Sure.
And kind of describe maybe the emergency entrance that took place?
Sure. So there was one that was in the immediate vicinity of the suspect, one that had sought shelter further into the business. Again, there's still some information, keeping in mind this is 6 to 7 hours old and investigations with DCI now. And then another who was in a different part of the building and was able to make exit as the events were unfolding. And so that's the landscape of those at that point.
Sure. And then the entrance, the way.
So I'll speak in generalities again too. In these types of situations, we're trained to immediately render aid and assistance to hostages to make sure they're okay. So our priority would be to make sure that's okay, and then start administering other medical care. So we have a pretty quick thought process or immediate action as to how we're going to approach the next phase of this type of engagement, and that's what we're trained to do and understand. So
Could you confirm when you say the hostage was in the immediate area of the suspect, like how close? Right next to the suspect?
I'll let the DCI investigation provide that information in time. It'd be just inappropriate for me to comment on a very limited kind of brief that I have, so.
And when when you speak of trying to bring things to peaceful resolutions and then something like this has to happen, through the training, what is a general kind of threshold for when officers are told, you got to shoot?
So officers have they have to read the situation, and it's a, imminent danger to life is what they're looking at, right? There's a threat to that individual that they have to act and protect, either to an officer or to another member of the public. And again, they follow the case law, the same case law that they would use on the street in other circumstances, and recognize that. It just becomes much trickier when people are being used as a shield or something of that nature. It's obviously, again, we watch a lot of movies. I think we take for granted the level of professionalism and training that it requires to be in these situations and to have these sort of results, so.
So, in this situation, officers actually took fire, yeah?
Correct.
When was the last time an officer actually was fired upon, not just threatened in the city of Sioux Falls?
I'd have to go.
I can't remember any.
I'd have to go back and check, and again, I would say, the misfortune of having a lot of incidents to try to recollect right now. And so we could dig that up. There's some pretty good summaries of these events of what have taken place. Off the top of my head, to be honest, they all are a little bit running together at this moment for me. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And again, in this circumstance, we had an officer basically going in to get food for his break, having no idea what was taking place inside. And again, it demonstrates in law enforcement, sometimes people look at us in our profession and we go from 0 to 120 in a matter of milliseconds, right? And trying to understand what could be just a normal interaction becomes the most significant interaction that people can have in their life, And so, again, it illustrates just how, again, this officer wasn't responding to a call, was just trying to get break, because they hadn't had to have break yet, and we're trying to get some food and get back out on patrol.
You said crisis and SWAT are on duty at this time. How much has officer-involved shooting incidents changed, the makeup of the police department in terms of who's on duty, who's not?
And so it's good question. We bid and kind of our personnel fall where they may. But typically you'll see with our specialty units, they're dispersed throughout the department, throughout shifts. There may be one day when we have 6 working, there may be another day due to days off where there's nobody working. So it kind of just ebbs and flows. But I go back to, in many circumstances, our patrol officers are the first wave that are handling really difficult situations. Because as you brought up earlier, to mobilize a SWAT team can be anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes for the first responding officer to even an hour, depending on where they're at and what they're doing. So our patrol officers are trained to a level where they understand the responsibilities, they understand the roles, and are very competent in handling these, and have handled these very, very high-stress situations. Again, it's just kind of an augment, and very, very fortunate that we had the amount of advanced trained personnel on scene today that we did.
I think this was mentioned in the Attorney General's press release, but officers, okay? And can you talk about conditions of hostages?
So, yep, all officers are okay and uninjured, and all hostages are uninjured as well. Required no medical attention.
About the suspect in this case, can you speak in generalities or as specific as you can? Was there a warrant out for this individual? Was he a known entity to law enforcement?
So,
to the degree that you can speak.
I can, very limited, that known to law enforcement. However, there are notifications that need to be made that are not made by either of our agencies, either the Sioux Falls Police Department or Minnehaha County. And even in these circumstances, we must respect that and make sure that proper notifications are made before, again, and at this point, we would probably not comment at all due to the ongoing investigation to make sure. We have complete faith in DCI and the Attorney General's office, as they've proven time and time again to be very proficient and professional at investigating these, and we look forward to the completion of their report. Anything else?
Just to clarify as well for the incident, I know there was this hostage situation, and there was a Metro Communications call. Is there any details as far as, what this was? Was this
Yeah.
a robbery
So-
on paper, or?
At this point, and I've kind of mentioned in the past, when we get to a certain point, we just kind of hit pause and step back. These are questions that some of us are looking to have answered as well through the course of the investigation, but we're relying on DCI to conduct that investigation and provide some of those answers.
Can you release any information about the suspect, whether it's male, female, age range, anything like that?
At this point, I'm going to err on the side of caution because I don't know how much information has gotten out through other means. In today's day and age where there's cell phone video or people like that, the ultimate thing we want to make sure is that proper notifications are made before we even release anything in that nature. And if that's nothing else, just want to, again, thank our partnership with Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office and all law enforcement. You see when things get really, really difficult, we work well together. I think we're an example of how agencies cooperate and serve our community in a way, in a really positive way with collaboration. And again, thankful for that partnership and thankful that when we face trials and difficult times and difficult calls, we can do that together. So, thank you.